Good evening everyone, and welcome to the third round of the FRS Competizione GT Sprint Series. Tonight we have a interesting format where we're going to start off with a quick 10-minute qualifying session, followed by 3 races, the first of which will have their grid set by the qualifying positions, and then the next 2 races will be reverse grids from the race before. So expect some of the some interesting racing, as we have 3 20-minute races, and the fast drivers at the back will be looking to make up positions from the back of the grid. So if we take a look through our grid, we've got our current provisional pole sitter of Booth actually on for an improving lap here. It's currently a couple of tenths up on their previous best, so if they can hold this together, this is going to improve their hold over first place. And we've got a number of other drivers who are on for an improving lap, but we will... Ooh, as Booth puts their wheels out on the dirt, and that is that lap over. So let's go take a look at our current 7th place sitter of Hawk in the Aston Martin. Currently 7 tenths up on their previous best, so going to be looking to move themselves up the grid for tonight's race. It appears they have not provided their livery, because we have a nice plain carbon base coat, so I'm not sure if that's what they're exactly going for, but that's what we got. It's crossed the line, and that is P5 currently for Hark. Check to see which other drivers are on for an improvement. So Haringzord in their first FRS GT Sprint Series race, currently sitting down in P12, and is going to be hoping to find their footing in this new game. Previously only really raced in the FRS with the F1 games, and have made their first jump into GT racing. So it'd be interesting to see what they're capable of with their bit of self-promotion on the livery there. Can't complain, I have some on my own, so let's go see who else looks to be improving on the lap, and it is Marvin Helget, who's currently on for a big improvement here. Yep, and that puts them to the top of the grid, front of the grid, for a 1:23.6, a very solid lap there in the Bentley. And 1.3 seconds clear of anyone else on the grid. That is a spectacular lap, and it's going to be a real challenge for anyone to match that. But FaZe in the Poggers Racing Lexus is on for a good improvement, and that puts them into P3 on the grid. We have 1:25.1, still 1.5 seconds slower than the benchmark set by Helget, and well, it'll be interesting to see if anyone can get anywhere close to that time. As Brad Spitt in the Spit Racing Aston Martin, so quite a fetching livery on that car as they come to cross the start-finish line. Should be a good improvement, and jumps them over Hark and Haringzord up into P7 with a 1:25.4. And they have retired to the pits, as Prune Tracy is on their flying lap right now. Prune's shown that they're a formidable racer in this GT Sprint Series already. It looks like a little bit of latency from the Australian driver, as that's not where the corner goes. So that will be a not a great starting position for Prune, who is used to starting at the front of the grid. Currently sees himself sitting in P11 and is not likely to improve. And Helga actually looking to improve even further on their previous best, currently 3/10 up in the FRS Team Lemon test car. The beautiful lemon skin livery there on their Bentley. Be interesting to see if this is the car they're intending to take into the ACCSS 24 Hours of Spa early next month. And this is looking to be a stupendous lap from Marvin. Just the final corner to go. As they come down to the start-finish line, and well, just 1/10 of a second shy of getting into the 122s, and was enjoying that speed so much they didn't want to lose it and went straight into the wall there. And that lap is, I imagine, untouchable, as no other drivers have even gotten near to the 123s. One driver who is looking to improve is Nick Booth in the Kaboof Lexus. Fortunately, the Lexus not allowing custom liveries, so Nick Booth having to make do with what the game gives him. And we have two drivers who have yet to even set a time. I suspect Hussam has realised that they have actually signed up for the FRS Champions League and have a race tonight, so hopefully they don't miss that. So I wonder if they're just in the session, but going to miss the first race here while they take part in their F1 one-on-one races. As we watch Booth come around the final few corners, it's going to be an improvement on their lap, but I'm not sure if they're going to be challenging for pole, but it will be P2 for Booth. So a nice lap, a low 124 is a very respectable time around Brands Hatch. As that is the end of the session. So we will take a quick break and be back shortly for the start of the first race here at Brands Hatch. Welcome back everyone as we start the first race here at Brands Hatch, as Marvin Helga is going to lead the pack away after this short quarter formation lap. Keep an eye a bit further down the pack, as this first turn here at Brands Hatch can be a little bit of a clumsy nightmare, especially for some of these drivers who may be a little less experienced of rolling starts. It can catch you a bit by surprise, the fast right-hander. It's a bit of a blind apex, and if you're not quite sure where you're going to be going side by side with another car, keep an eye on the back of the pack here as we see an Aston Martin around, and well, two cars do well to avoid there, but we have got a spinner in the back. And that is not Spike actually at the back, so we have to wait for the timing tower to readjust. But looks like Helga is well away at the start. And has already pulled out a 1 second gap over Booth. The pack behind is keeping well together, as we've got Booth, Kovacs, Van Winsum and Lightbody, and FaZe actually, all in this pack together, not much separating them. If we take a look a bit further down the order as well, Tekkonen 1988 in the custom liveried McLaren, newly created livery just today provided, and not sure if this driver has done much ACC racing, but making some good moves, as there is quite a fight going on up ahead which we'd like to take a look at. With Donald Duck right in the middle of this in the Logitech McLaren G Challenge liveried McLaren. Side by side with Hollow as they come into the first corner. Paddock Hill curve, a corner that can so easily catch drivers out as they head into the hairpin and down to Druids. Still side by side and very respectful racing between the two drivers here. Each giving each other a lot of room, but for now Duck manages to stay ahead as they head into the second sector, and there's a whole lot of grass taken by Duck there. It's going to open the door to Hollow if he can get alongside such a tight track here at Brands Hatch. It is very, very difficult to find the opportunity to overtake. You just got to hang on for multiple corners. Oh, as there's contact between the two of them. Duck just not leaving enough space on the outside there, potentially just not noticing that the Ferrari was alongside him. But that does mean that Hollow has dropped way back and will be having to fight his way back up through the order. Let's take a look at Husam with the interesting liveried Aston Martin, it must be said. But having not set a lap in qualifying, he's having to make his way up from the back of the field. We know Husam is a fast driver, and we have a McLaren way off the track there and destroying some polystyrene for good measure. So I believe that is, yep, that is Khalid Ramadan in the Balf Motorsport McLaren. Has managed to keep the car out of the wall though, so manages to carry on without damage, which is one of the most important things here in these short sprint races. Let's take the opportunity to take a look at some of the other cars we have in this pack, as we see Conor McDermott, otherwise known as Cruzo, in the Iron Brew Racing, the Gulf Iron Brew Racing Team liveried Aston Martin. Aston Martin, a popular choice of car here tonight, as it is in most ACC races, as well, takes out one Aston Martin and then does a sympathy crash just for good measure, and I'm not sure, it appears that Conor McDermott may have potentially over-pressured their rear tyres, as that Aston Martin looks awfully twitchy for a front-engine car. As Tom Mack is currently chasing down Tekkonen in the FRS Pineapple liveried Lamborghini. Quite a nice livery there. Looks like just an in-game design livery for now, but very fetching as he right on the back of Tekkonen. He's going to get a good drive out of the corner. Looked like he got a better exit, but not quite a long enough straight to get alongside here. And this second sector in Brands Hatch, so difficult to get alongside another car. The straights just aren't long enough, but they and are way too fast to just stick a nose in. So Tom Match is going to have to be patient there. He's very, very sideways, and I was about to say does well to keep it out the wall, but that's a big hit on the rear right, and just got to hope there's no suspension damage from that whack against the wall. As back near the front we have got a fight over second position, as Kovacs is chasing down Nick Booth. Nick Booth doing well to put in that solid lap at the end of qualifying. Has been able to hold on to P2. He's holding back Kevin Kovacs, otherwise known as Covino. And yeah, the the lack of acceleration from the Porsche really showing there, as just getting out of the corner, slipping back a little bit, and the straights here aren't really long enough for the Porsche to get alongside. So it's going to be interesting to see how Kovacs decides to play the next 13 minutes of this race. Tom Mack has got back control of his orange Lamborghini and is currently chasing down Hussam in the Aston Martin. Putting in a strong performance here is Tom Mack, currently sitting in a P12. Yeah, really the only two overtaking possibilities here at Brands Hatch are on the run up to Paddock Hill Bend. If you can just get your nose ahead, you can sometimes get the authority of the corner. And then the second place would be heading into the second sector, the longest straight on the track. Come around the next bend, we'll have to see if Tom Mack can get the drive on Hussam. As this is, yeah, as I said, this is the longest straight on the track on this Brands Hatch GP circuit. But yep, just not close enough to be looking to make a move. We check back in with Donald Duck, who's currently chasing down Elliott for P7. And the McLaren, very strong car around this circuit, does well with the high-speed corners and is able to keep up with Elliott round the fast second sector. But with the McLaren's lack of straight line speed, it will be tricky for Donald Duck to find an opportunity to overtake, and really has to rely on Elliott making a mistake somewhere to allow the the superiority of the McLaren to overtake in the fast corners. So it does not have the superior drive in the straights. Just behind these two, looks like Spike in the Pog liveried Aston Martin is driving the wheels off of that Aston, getting very sideways, but still managing to keep it under control and keep pace in the car, and is really harassing the back of Tekkenen's McLaren. And you can really see the power of this Aston Martin under braking. As expected, we'll see when we get into the slower corners, you can really see how short the braking zones are for that Aston Martin. Can easily take a good 10 to 20 meters out of other cars. As looks like that is Tekkenen up ahead, who's taking a little bit of an excursion in the dirt, as it looked like Elliott was doing just before. Sorry, that was not Tekkenen, that was Donald Duck in the 720 McLaren. Evening, Nordy. Have you got the first of the Champions League races coming up soon? As Tekkenen gets very sideways there in the McLaren, and that looks like that will potentially allow the Pog liveried Aston or Spike to make a move, but not quite able to at this point. Aston Martin should have the grunt to get alongside there, but Spike just not getting the drive out of the corner. And it's now the turn of Tekkenen to be attacking Elliott through the second sector. As we said, the McLaren does have the advantage here in the second sector at Brands Hatch. Loves those fast corners. such good aero on that McLaren, but it does suffer on the long straights, especially coming out of slow corners. Just does not have the acceleration. And further down the order, it looks like Tom Lightbody is looking to make a move on Tom Mack up on the inside of the FRS Pineapple Lamborghini, and the very retro Aston Martin of Tom Lightbody has got himself up into P13. And it's going to be interesting to see whether some of these drivers down in the lower part of the running order decide to opt for a tactical running here, as our next race will be a reverse grid. Could be an advantage for some of these drivers just to, you know, sandbag a little and get themselves a higher up starting position on the grid on the second race. As Prune Tracy looks to make his way through the field after a real horror show of qualifying. Was completely missed the second to last corner and did not qualify as high as we would expect from the Australian driver. But it now looks like he's got a good run on Tom Mack, and yep, Tom Mack just concedes the position, knows that Prune is a very fast driver and just doesn't want to get caught up in an incident with a potentially frustrated Porsche driver sitting behind him. As Hussam gets gifted a position there by looked like an incident that between, was that looked to be the Aston Martin of Tom Lightbody off the track, or was it Spike? Yes, looks like it was the Aston Martin of Spike who was off the track. Looks like they're carrying a bit of damage as well. Some front aero damage is going to be. As that Aston Martin looks extremely twitchy. Not something you usually expect to see from an Aston Martin, but just getting a bit lively under throttle there. As from a driver who was looking like they were on the attack earlier in this race, is really having to go defensive as they've looks like just potentially got a bit too high pressures in the rears and not able to maintain that grip. As Hollow, after the incident earlier in the race, is looking to make some moves and move themselves further up the grid, is currently sat behind the FRS Pineapple livery Lamborghini of Tom Mack, who they had an incident with earlier in the race. Is going to want to make this pass a little bit cleaner, and they've got past Tom Mack now without incident, so can start charging down the rest of the field. You check back in with Haringzord, who is having a phenomenal race here for their first ACC race. Starting this week asking questions like, what are tyre pressures? And is now finding themselves in P10. In the Zord Sport Ferrari. Is looking to put one of our veteran GT drivers of Donald Duck under a little bit of pressure. Now, a number of these drivers did say they were going to be using the qualifying here at Brands Hatch for their practice, so potentially just going to see times improve over these 3 races as drivers get used to this track. As Tom Lightbody goes for a brave move around the outside, very difficult to hold the speed around the final corner here at Brands Hatch. So they head into Paddock Hill Bend. Haringzord with a very good drive out of the corner is actually putting Donald Duck under a lot of pressure, and oh, beautiful move around the inside. He'll be very pleased with that for his first ACC race. This is phenomenal display from the Ferrari driver. Oh, and it looks like he has solidly got the inside line there as Haringzord, and Donald Duck tries to tuck in behind Haringzord to take the slipstream and doesn't quite realise that the Aston Martin of Lightbody is tucking in as well, and very nearly came together there, and did well to avoid what could have been quite a horrible collision. But we're going to have just a couple more laps of action here in our first race at Brands Hatch. As Tom Mack has got past Spike. I'm not quite sure what happened to Spike there. Let's just go take a quick look if we can. Oh, I forgot that the replay does not like custom liveries, and oh, that is unfortunate. Just for a little bit of a wiggle on there, and Tom Mack couldn't avoid the back of the wayward Aston Martin, and turned that little wiggle into a full-on spin. Little pack here is still as close as they've ever been, with Haringzord leading the McLaren of Donald Duck, followed by Tom Lightbody, and now fast approaching the back of these three drivers is the Porsche of Prune Tracy. Well, thanks for the follow. I hope you're enjoying this GT offering from the FRS. We're known for our usual Formula 1 races, but we're branching out and trying some other sims. As Tom Lightbody's looking like he's wanting to make a move before these final laps are over. Further up ahead, it's actually Hussam who's looking to want to make a move on Hark. So they come around Paddock Hill Bend, and Hark taking a defensive line on the inside of the hairpin, and it's looking like Hark is really wanting to hold on to that P7 as they run wide. This could open the door for Hussam, just not a long enough straight to get alongside. It's going to be down to whether they can get a better exit, but doesn't appear to be the case this time around, and they're just going to have to settle in for P8 for a little while longer. And it actually looks like something may have happened to Donald Duck here, as they have dropped considerably down the field, and it's now Prune Tracy on the back. Oh, I was going to say Prune Tracy on the back of Haringzord. Not quite sure what happened there. Let's just go take a look. Oh, of course, I really need to remember that you shouldn't try and do replays when you have liveries installed. So let's see what happened to Prune here. Oh, a little snap of Porsche understeer that, or oversteer there. Well, I should say understeer that then turns into oversteer, is so often the case with the Porsche. And oh, that is a big sideways moment for Donald there. As Helget's just bringing us around the final few corners now for what will be their final lap of the race. Just coming down now to the final corner of the race. And it has been a very dominant display from Helget here. 10 seconds or 11 seconds lead over their nearest competitor over this 20-minute race. And Covino did manage to take second position from Nick Booth, with a very respectable 3rd place. Next is Mitchell Van Winsum. Had a bit of a quiet race there in P4, followed by FaZe. And next up will be Elliott in the Only Clowns Racing Aston Martin, who saw a little bit of action towards the start of the race, but then was alone for the remainder of this 20-minute first race here at Brands Hatch. Next will be Hark in the Mobius Aston Martin, followed by Hussam, Lightbody and Haringzord. And Donald Duck, having finished the race, goes a little bit sideways and then gets a bit of a slam from Prune Tracy. They'll be followed by Brad Spitt, Tom Mack, Hollow. Looks like Hollow has run out of fuel as that Ferrari is creeping towards the start-finish line. And there goes the Iron Brew Racing Aston Martin of Conor McDermott. And will Hollow make it to the start-finish line before... it's both Spike and Ramadan are in the pit, so it's P16 for Hollow, as I believe they've passed the start-finish line at this point. It is an uphill run to Paddock Hill Bend, and I don't think they have the power to actually make it up the hill. No, they have stopped just before Paddock Hill Bend. Look, we will be back shortly for race 2 here at Brands Hatch. So Conor McDermott will lead us away here, but we'll keep an eye on the middle of our pack, as this way does chaos lie. And we are underway for a very wet race 2 here at Brands Hatch. And as predicted, there is carnage at the back as Hussam collects, I believe that is Elliott, and we have got Donald Duck off as well, facing backwards. So a poor start for some drivers, but others getting a better start of it. No, so this is... I don't believe this is the reverse championship order. I believe it is reverse order from race 1. As McDermott leads us away, Tom Mack is sizing up McDermott here as the drivers testing out these conditions for the first time, other than a few little practice laps before. So everyone just going to be trying to find their feet here as they go racing at Brands Hatch. And it's behind this that we've got some close battling going on. Actually, it's close battling all throughout the field at the moment, as drivers just trying to find the lines that they can take in these conditions. And Elliott has made it through on Haringzord, with the Ferrari driver just being a little bit more cautious on the accelerator, and Elliott getting a very good drive. And up at the front, it looks like Tom Mack has got the move made on McDermott as they come down into Paddock Hill Bend. McDermott taking a very inside line, and it seems to have paid off here. He's going to get a good drive, but actually it's Tekkonen who's getting the move made on McDermott, just not giving himself enough of the track to accelerate out. And a little bit of a pinch there from Tekkonen, not quite leaving the space on the inside, but he is through. And that is a bit of contact there between Prune Tracy and McDermott, and Prune Tracy is away and through. And though this is not a stewarded event, a little bit cheeky there, taking advantage from the tap on McDermott. McDermott falling down through the field, with Hark making a move on Lightbody there, as that's a big spin from Lightbody into the wall. And I think you are right, Turbo Guy, that is certainly been shambles so far. As behind these, there's a very sideways Aston Martin of Elliott. Not something you see very often from an Aston Martin, although I was saying that in the last race, so maybe it's the heavy engine up front can cause them to be a bit twitchy under acceleration, so it's usually on corner exit that the Aston gets a bit twitchy, but it seems in these conditions it's twitchy just about everywhere. As Brad Spitt's eyeing up Elliott into Paddock Hill Bend, not a place you want to be sticking a nose alongside, such a fast corner, as Elliott just doesn't manage to get the front end of that Aston hooked up enough to catch the apex. Gives Brad Spitt a bit better run down into the second corner, but runs wide, and that has opened the door for Covino to come through. Covino looking like they're on a bit of a charge here at the moment. And McDermott is off, and it looks like quite a bit of heavy damage there on the Iron Brew Aston Martin. But it's Covino we're going to keep an eye on in the chrome black Porsche. As Elliott and Hark nose to tail. Oh, and now side by side, needs to be careful not to collect each other. Very respectful racing here, but this all the while is opening the door for Covino, who is really looking like he's got the pace in these wet conditions. Perhaps just having the engine over those rear tyres is giving the Porsche the better drive in this low traction scenario. And it does look like Elliott's got the run on Hark here, having to take two wheels onto the grass. Risky manoeuvre in these conditions, especially with the grass here in these British tracks. Can feel like ice sometimes if you get your wheels on them, and especially so in the wet. But Covino looking to take the inside line on Hark here. Hark just closing it off. But Covino looking for any opportunity to get alongside, and at the moment it looks like Covino's just getting held up here, and this is allowing Conor McDermott to come back at him. As we have yellow flags being waved somewhere, but Covino with a good run out the corner. For Hark not really leaving much space there on the outside, and Covino having to back out before he puts his wheels on the grass and potentially dives the Porsche into a spin. Need to be very, very careful around here. The grass is supremely slippery. It does look like Covino's got the inside line here. There's a bit of a touch between the two drivers, but they both managed to keep it pacing in the same direction, so it won't be too many complaints there, as I would suspect. And Covino with the much better drive out of the second to last corner as they come down into the final corner. Covino with the outside line should be able to carry the better speed through the corner, and does, and takes the lead. So they come down to the start finish line here as we approach the 13-minute mark. And Conor McDermott is looking to make a move on Hark as well up the inside. Ooh, as Hark goes very, very sideways, and that opens the door to McDermott, and he is through into P6. As I say that, a little bit of synchronised spinning there from three Aston Martins, and now just have to wait for the whole field to go by as they rejoin. As actually we get our first joining of Helget here, making his way back from the back of the pack after having to start in last after winning the first race here at Brands Hatch. So making his way back through the pack, currently up into P11. I'm going to have to see how many more positions Helget can make up in the remaining 12 minutes of this race. Further up the field, it's Donald Duck and Spike who are looking to move themselves up in the order. We've already seen Hark has just fallen back a bit from the start near the front. So with this being a reverse grid race, the slower drivers are starting at the front, so we should see a lot of overtakes here, but it's going to be up to who can defend well. As this Brands Hatch circuit is notoriously hard to overtake on. Although saying that, Spike is looking to take the inside line around Paddock Hill Bend, and Duck giving Spike all the room in the world there, just maybe somewhat fearful of the Aston Martin drifting wide and collecting him, and that has allowed Spike through into P9 as Donald just goes off the track there and allows Helget through, but gets the superior drive out of the corner as Helget was having to take avoiding action, and Donald back up into P10, but just going a bit deep on the brakes there, and again has allowed Helget through, and needs to be careful not to collect any other drivers here. They've got a bit of a slower drive out of the corner, and that has allowed McDermott through as well. But back at the front of this race, Prune Tracy doing extremely well, getting themselves up to P3, and Tom Mack is looking to take the lead back from Tekkonen. These three drivers with a reasonably substantial lead over the rest of the pack of really just going to be fighting amongst themselves for the at least the next few laps until the rest of the pack can sort themselves out. And Tekkonen, a new driver to this the FRS GT Sprint Series, and doing very well to hold off Tom Mack for the time being, as Tom Mack takes the inside line into Druids. He's going to have a good drive out of here with Tekkonen having to take to the grass, but neither having the best drive out, as Prune Tracy is just trying to find any opportunity to sneak past these two fighters. Oh, as that is a big bit of sideways motion from the McLaren there, and that has opened the door to Tekkonen. Oh, sorry, to Tom Mack, and Prune Tracy just trying to put down the power a little too early there, and is getting a bit sideways in the Porsche. Well, it's Tom Mack cutting as much of that corner as possible. Prune Tracy really struggling to keep it on the track here, and goes careening off into some of the polystyrene brake markers. We just have to hope that none of the other drivers are using those brake markers as their braking reference, otherwise they might have a little bit of a surprise as they come around into the third sector for the next time. As Conor McDermott goes a bit off-roading there in the second sector, as Harrington also dips a couple of wheels onto the grass. It's all getting a little bit sketchy here around Brands Hatch, and wow, I'm not just wondering if the rain is coming down a bit heavier now, because a lot of drivers are finding it difficult to keep it on the track. I guess the other alternative here is potentially just some of these drivers, having not raced this game in the wet, didn't realise that you don't want to be running at the usual optimum 27.5 psi. You want to be upping those pressures to around 30 on the wet compounder tyre to reduce the size of your contact patch with the track, and allow those wet compound tyres to really shift the water off the track. If you're running to lower pressure and you increase the size of that contact patch, so you're just going to aquaplane. So potentially just some of these drivers not used to the setup in this game, and well, looks like we've got a bit of a slow Spike there. Sorry, no, not Spike, Brad Spitt in the Aston Martin. Not sure if that Aston Martin is carrying damage or is just recovering from a bit of a spin, but not up to the pace we would expect from Brad Spitt. But they are away and again now, so chasing back down after phase. And at the front, it's still the fight between Tom Mack and Tekkonen for the lead of this race, with only 7.5 minutes remaining and a 5 seconds gap back to the next nearest driver. These two could be fighting for the win here. Although Elliott is making up ground behind them, so we'll have to see if the Aston Martin driver does come back into contention. Further down the order, Spike is chasing down Hark for P8 of this race. And again, Hark going wide onto the grass. Need to be careful of that on this slippery grass here at Brands Hatch. As Spike eyes the opportunity and gets what ends up being quite a straightforward pass on Hark there. And is able to pull out a little bit of a gap as behind them Husam with a big spin and needs to get that Aston Martin back under control as they've got Helga not, well, I was going to say not too far behind, but actually very far behind. Actually no, sorry, Helga did manage to get past. So my apologies there. So Helga now on the back of Harks, made it up to P9 from dead last in this race, so it's been a very strong display from the Bentley driver in the FRS Team Lemon car. It's up ahead, Hark looking to take the place back from Spike. Spike keeping with the Aston Martin, well, the other Aston Martin. Oh, as it looked like Elliott had caught up to the back of Tom Mack, but goes off track, so we have to go back and see what happened there. As we wait for the replay to load. So let's see what happened here. So Tom Mack rejoining the track up ahead. As Elliott, the huge overspeed, goes to the outside. It's got two wheels on the grass, and you cannot brake on the grass here at Brands Hatch. Yeah, and that was to be expected. You just can't brake on this grass. It's very, very slippery. Now it's the turn of Cavino to try and attack Tom Mack. Tom Mack, who was fighting for the lead of this race, didn't quite see what happened to them, but they have dropped 6 seconds back from Tekkonen. So Tekkonen with the lead of this race, and quite a dominant lead, almost 7 seconds ahead of anyone else on this track. As Cavino is putting Tom Mack under a lot of pressure. Oh, as the Porsche gets very sideways there, but Kovac's doing well to keep hold of it and continues to chase down Tom Mack, taking a lot of curb there, so not necessarily what you want to be doing in these conditions, but the Porsche seems to handle it well. And Cavino opting not to have his lights on in these conditions. It's not dark enough for this to be the stealth play at work, so that's just not got the auto lights on, but very, very close to Tom Mack now. Both cars not getting that close to the apex on Paddock Hill Bend. Fearful of getting a snap of oversteer through the corner, that could very easily end your race, as once you snap through Paddock Hill Bend you're going to likely just drive straight into the wall. It's very hard to slow down once you hit the grass here. Cavino's putting Tomac under pressure, but still not been able to find an opportunity to make a pass. As Cavino goes very wide there onto the curb, and still managing to find some traction out there. As Helga is chasing down Hark again, looking to make up some more positions in their race from the back of the field. It's done well to get from P19 all the way up to P7 here around this very wet Brands Hatch race. And it's looking like we will get one more lap after the timer hits 0 here, as Teknon should comfortably get past the start finish line before the timer runs out. And that will give Cavino some more time to get this move made on Tom Mack, but does not need that time as Tom Mack goes wide and gifts the position to Cavino, who's now up into P2. So 2 very solid races from Cavino this evening. And goes wide, but not too wide. Doesn't lose as much grip as Tom Mack does, but Tom Mack's still fighting in the FRS Pineapple Lamborghini. As Helga into P6 has made the move stick on Hark, as our leader has finished the race. Just slowed it down a little bit, I guess, to get it across the line. P2 for Cavino, followed by Tom Mack, Elliott, Booth with a good race to get them up into P5 after finishing the last race in P2. Then Helga in P6, Hark, Husam, Prune Tracy, Spike, FaZe, Donald Duck, Brad Spit, Haringzord, Hollow. We'll finally get to see the Iron Brew liveried Colin McDermott. So he brings us round to the final sector. As the drivers lead us away on the final formation lap of this 3-race event here at Brands Hatch. Weather's a little bit more hospitable for this 3rd race of the series, as we head down towards the start finish line for the final waving of the green flag. Cars get into position, and we are under green light conditions here at Brands Hatch, and Van Winsome's got an exceptionally good start there as Cruzo gets pitched round by Dozzo Duck there and finds himself in the sand with no one else around. As Ramadan gets back past Van Winsome and in turn gets pitched around, and everyone's going to have to do well to avoid the spun McLaren there as Ramadan just gets himself out of the way. So well done there, but finds himself right at the back of the pack now. That's going to be very, very frustrating. But up ahead, Van Winsome is disappearing into the distance. I'm sure Ramadan won't be especially happy about that, but it's now giving Van Winsome a bit of free air at the front, and Hark and Lightbody are fighting behind. And with this reverse grid and Helget not starting from the very back this time, they've managed to make up a considerable number of positions in the first couple of sectors, finding themselves in P5 from what I believe was P12. So an exceptionally good drive for the, or start from the Bentley driver there. There's Hark, looks like they just went off track there. Let's just see what happened. We have to wait a little while for the replay, I do apologise. So they're coming down into the 30s. Oh, what happened here? Oh, it's in the last corner. Yep, just getting two wheels on the grass, and this is what I was saying before, there's not any grip out there. So if you get your wheels out on the grass, especially on the outside, you're just going to understeer off the corner. Now it's Booth attacking Hark. It's got the inside line in the Lexus. And Hark doing well now to hold off the chasing Lexus. But further up the order, it's Helget who's looking to make a move on Tom Mack, and Tom Mack closing the door there, just not giving Helget the space to get through. Strong racing from the Lamborghini driver, representing the FRS Team Pineapple. So it's Pineapple versus Lemon here, as Pineapple goes very wide, but somehow managing to find some grip right out there on the grass and gets a very, very good drive out of the corner. Behind, Covino again making an extremely strong drive up the order, currently finds themselves in P9 and attacking the Aston Martin of Elliott. This has been a good number of back to front drives for Covino, and the Porsche driver really showing their skill in overtaking. And up in front, Booth and Hark going not only wheel to wheel but door to door through the final corner as they come down to the Paddock Hill bend. And for now, Hark staying ahead, but Booth with a good run out of Paddock Hill bend into the the hairpin. And actually, it's Elliott who is threatening Booth. It's gonna doesn't quite close out the outside of the corner to Booth, so Booth does manage to use the whole track's width there, which gives him the opportunity to continue to chase down Hark. And it does look like Booth has got a very good drive out of the corner here. It's fully alongside the Aston Martin as they come into the fast right-hander. Oh, and there's a big bit of contact there between them, but ACC Physics behaving themselves this evening as both cars managed to carry on without one being pitched off into the wall. And a very nice move around the outside there from Booth. Did well to hang it on round the outside through multiple corners, and is well ahead of Hark now, as Covino is the next driver who wants to take on the carbon liveried Aston Martin. Covino having to be careful that he's not put under pressure from Elliott behind as he's attacking Hark. And some of these sections of the track, the Aston Martin just a little bit stronger than the Porsche, and that does enable them to catch up on these long straights. We'll stick with this fight for a few corners more. But actually at the front of the field there is a three-way fight over P2. As Lightbody finding himself under pressure from Prune Tracy. Prune Tracy darts around the outside and bit of contact there between Tom Mack and Lightbot, and that has allowed Helget to get through. And Tom Mack's probably not going to be too happy about that one, losing out multiple positions because of what was a slight tap. And what I was saying before about ACC physics behaving themselves, well, not so much in that instance. Further back, Covino now as close as he's ever been. Not actually far behind this lead fight, and will be wanting to make some moves fairly soon to go and start chasing down the leaders, but needs to find a way to get himself clear of Hercules. As Covino darting left, right, trying to find a way around this Aston Martin. The Aston Martin, not the widest car on the grid by a long shot, but still these GT3 cars, they're not slim, and they're not easy to get past, especially around this tight and twisting Brands Hatch circuit. We check in with some of our drivers further down the order. It's Hollow in the... well, I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name of that team, but the Fuchsia Ferrari, and has got the inside line there. Takano did well to avoid cutting into the Ferrari, just backs out of the corner in time not to collide, and Hollow is through. But Takano not giving up this fight, and with Haringzord not far behind. I believe both of these drivers actually, Hollow and Haringzord, running the non-Evo spec of the Ferrari, as it doesn't appear to have the extra aero features on the front of the car. I may be wrong, but let's take a closer look for curiosity's sake. Yeah, it doesn't appear to be the aero features on the front of either of those Ferraris. Interesting, you don't see the old Ferrari being run often, but interesting we've got the only two Ferrari runners opting for the old Ferrari in this race. We check back in with Covino, and well, potentially an incident for Covino earlier, because they were chasing down Hercules, but now under threat from Lightbot, as they're side by side in the second sector. Covino just putting a couple of wheels out on the dirt there. Need to be careful not to do that too much, because as I say, not much grip out there, and you do it on the outside, you're going to understeer off. Do it on the inside, there's a potential of just massive oversteer. And it's looking like the rear end of that Ferrari not too happy at the moment. Maybe just as the fuel drains away and the fuel tank empties and gets lighter, the balance of that Porsche is known to move away from a driver. That car does prefer to have a nice full fuel tank to remain in a good balance. This pack of four, nice and close together. 4 Aston Martins together on the track. Or even 5 Aston Martins, only separated by this one Porsche of Covino. Covino now extremely close onto the back of Brad Spitt. good solid racing down in the lower half of this grid, and these reverse grid races really doing some wonders for healthy competition. And we're seeing how notoriously difficult it can be to overtake around Brands Hatch, with Covino just struggling to find a way past Brad Spitz. Back at the front of the grid, fighting over P2, are Prune Tracy and Helga, as Prune Tracy runs a little bit deep there onto the AstroTurf, gives Helga the inside lane coming into the hairpin, and Helga has got the run down into Druids and is away to start chasing down Mitchell Van Winsum for the lead of this race. Still, Covino not able to find a way past the Astons. These Aston Martins, such strong cars. As Brad Spitt has been pitched round there, it looked like, by the nose of Elliott, and that was a big collision into the wall. And I have to check to see what sort of condition that Aston is in. Wow, and Aston Martin looks to be in no condition, if I'm honest, as yep, that bonnet is raised right up, and well, Brad Spitt just having to wait for an opportunity to get going again, and I would not be surprised if there is suspension damage on that Aston Martin. We're thankfully not seeing any meatball flags being raised just yet, so won't be a mandatory pit stop for the Spitz Racing Aston Martin, but does not look like there's any front grip on that Aston as it understeers around each of these corners. Just the front aero completely gone, and I am not surprised with how far up that bonnet is. As I was predicting before, it did not take Helga long to catch up to the back of Van Winsum, and with 6.5 minutes remaining of this race, Van Winsum's really going to need to look in his mirrors and defending hard if he wants to take the win here, because Helga is certainly on a mission. And we do know the Bentley driver has a supreme turn of pace, out qualifying every other racer by 1.5 seconds and 10 seconds clear of the rest of the pack in the first race. Van Winsum's really going to have a lot on their plate. And perhaps the pressure just getting a little bit too much there, and Helga finding his way around the outside of the Lamborghini. Van Winsum leaving a respectful amount of space there, and maybe just a little bit too much because he didn't allow him to use the full track's width. And well, the Leviathan Bentley, you can really see how much bigger that car is than any other car on the grid. And the Lamborghini itself is not a small car, but in comparison to the Bentley it looks like a toy. As this race for the lead, or for the win I should say, hots up. And Van Winsum's definitely going to have a lot of work to do if he wants to hold on to the win here. And further down the order, it does look like Covino has got alongside the Aston Martin of Elliott. It's going to have the outside line. Manages to hold on to it. Ooh, Elliott just closing the door there, and Covino doing well to back out of it. They come round to the second to last corner. Oh, and it's a good run from Covino. Where is he going to opt to place that Porsche? Opts to stick in behind for now. Gets a good drive around the final corner, but the run down to Paddock Hill Bend isn't long, and it's very difficult to get alongside, and even if you are alongside, to make a move into Paddock Hill Bend. So Scavino just opting to make the track as wide as he can. Is there an opportunity into the hairpin? Doesn't look like it for now. Opts to stay in behind. And so the race continues. Is Scavino going to have the opportunity to stick a nose in? Nope. Opts for the safer approach, but he's going to have a good drive out of the corner here. And he's going to have Elliott under a lot of pressure here as they come into the fast right-hander. Where is Scavino going to opt to go? Just opts to stick in behind. That's the tricky thing about this section of the track. The corners come thick and fast. There's not much of an opportunity to get fully alongside before the next corner, but Scavino has managed to hold on around the inside, and looks to have capitalised on his position there and has taken P8 from Elliott with a supreme bit of side-by-side racing there around the second sector. Back at the front of this pack, Helga looks like he's being held up a little bit by Van Winsum, as Prune Tracy has been brought back into contention in this race. Looks like Van Winsum is defending for his life at the moment. Only 2 minutes remaining of this race. Just needs to hold on. But Helga getting impatient. Looking up the inside, looking to try and find himself any opportunity. Will likely just be a couple of laps remaining of this race. Van Winsum doing well to not succumb to the pressure, just driving the lines that he needs to drive, not worrying too much about the car behind. Doesn't appear to be defending too hard. Knows that his car is wide, knows that it's going to be tricky for the Bentley to find a way to get safely past, so he can just keep driving his lines. But it does look like at this point Helga has managed to pull alongside into Paddock Hill Bend. How much space is Van Winsum going to give him? And well, gives him all the space he needs as Helga is clear into the lead of this race. He's going to want to look to drive away as Van Winsum is going to come under pressure from Prune Tracy. And Helga already starting to drive away a little bit from Van Winsum. As down in P4 and 5, Booth chasing down Tom Mack. And as of yet, the Lexus not finding an opportunity to get alongside the Lamborghini. So they come into the final, also the second to last corner. Looks like Booth has got a good run here down to the final corner, but Tom Mack closes the door. Closes the door, but still opts to take a defensive line there, not using the whole width of the track, and this has allowed Booth to have a great run as they come down to the start-finish line. Tom Mack moving left and right over the track. Booth probably not going to be too happy about that as he darts around the outside. And apologies, I think we missed the leaders finishing the race with the action that was unfolding there. So Helga does take the win with Van Winsum in second, followed by Prune Tracy, Tom Mack, Booth, Hark, Lightbody, Kovacs, Elliott. Then we have the driver we're on board with now, Conor McDermott, and Ramadan Haringzord finishing P12. A good finish for this rookie ACC driver, and unfortunately having to start from the back in both of these reverse grid races, potentially just due to say, the wrong Steam ID. Oh, as Hollow decides to send his Ferrari into the barrier. Followed then by Tekkanen. And last but not least will be Brad Spitt. And there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That is our finish of our race tonight. And I hope you have enjoyed the racing here.